Okay, again, I'm going to start with a new document here. I'm going to do 11 by 14. Again, you got portrait or landscape, right? Portrait or landscape. So I'm going to do portrait because I'm making a poster. You could do landscape if you want. I'm going to do portrait because I'm used to that. You want CMYK if I'm going to do printing. CMYK stands for what? C is what? Cyan. M is what? Magenta. Y is what? Yellow. And K is what? Black.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the common printing colors. Here we go. If your windows are all messed up from previous lessons, to reset them all back to normal, you can go underneath View or Window, Workspace, Reset. That resets everything back to default. See? Now everything's back and clean like I just installed Illustrator, right? Again, it was under Window, Workspace, Reset. Okay, let's get started. Kind of like the landscape drawing that I did it earlier in the semester, we're going to have a kind of this is an evening, so it's going to be a darker kind of look to it with some stars in the background. Okay, so this is evening. I'm not going to, gradient might be nice, but again, it's not necessary because, I'm going to turn off my fill and I'm going to go with more of a background. So here's my kind of background shape. I'm going to go with a kind of a darker blue like that, and then I'm going to go with a little bit of a green down here for a grassy area, and then something like that. And don't worry, I'll put a lake in there as well, but that's going to be kind of my background, so I'm going to make a layer for that. So I'm going to use a lot of layers for this. So I'm going to call this layer background, and then I'm going to lock it so you can't mess with it. It's just back there. That's just color that's in the back. It's going to be back there. Okay, next I'm going to make some trees. Again, I'm going to make some redwood trees, basically kind of redwood looking trees. You guys all have seen redwoods before, right? So we're going to make some redwoods. You can use the pencil tool. I'm going to use the pencil tool if you want. You don't have to use the pen tool. And so I'm going to have several different trees. I'm going to start by drawing. Oh, I got to make a new layer. I'm going to call it trees. Trees. And I'm going to draw a tree. Kind of like that. I'm going to give it a color. And if you don't see colors, you can bring colors up. In addition, I'm going to be using swatches. I'm going to bring swatches up. So I'm going to be using swatches and color together. I don't need these. I do need this. So these are kind of the windows I'm using mostly for this. And I'm going to give it kind of a redwood look. Redwood look. Redwood look. Okay, let's talk about texture. So I have a nice, oh, it's kind of dark. I know the screen is kind of dark. Let me exaggerate that a little bit for your screen. Okay, so I have a tree. It's basically just a shape, kind of a tree shape. So this color that is in here, I'm going to use. So I'm going to make a texture that goes over top of this, but the color will come through as well. So when I'm making a texture, I'm going to have a little bit of lights and darks, and then this will actually come through. So the texture is not solid, is what I'm trying to say. It's going to be kind of, and so I'm just going to make kind of a bark, if that's a word, bark. You can think of square because textures are square, so you might want to start with a square. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I might start with a square, but I'm not going to use that square. I'm just going to start with it. Then I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to use my pencil tool to make a texture over top of that. So I'm going to deselect this. Then I'm going to make some kind of texture. Oh, not that. I was going to use lines. Sorry. I'm going to switch it to strokes. I'm going to use strokes. Maybe 2. I'm going to see how thick it is. Kind of like that. And then like that. And then let me get some other colors in there. That, oh, no, I didn't want that. Why are you doing this to me? I want it on that there, and I don't want no fill. Just doing lines. And then let me get some dark in there. A little bit of dark, thin dark. Huh? Oh, I know, I see that. It's killing me there. There we go. Thin. Okay, something like that. It doesn't look great, but once it starts repeating over there, it might look great. I don't know. So I'm going to delete that, and then I'm going to select it all. This is going to be kind of my pattern. Let's go into the pattern making option and look at how that works. We didn't go into much detail in the first time we tried patterns, so let's go in a little bit more detail about what is called tiling. So if we go underneath window and go into the pattern pop-up window, we can find it, pattern options, you'll see this is a pattern pop-up window, and that is sort of how you can make your pattern. And I think we did, remember we were making clothes and we were putting pattern in clothes. Do you remember that? Circles, didn't we do that one class? When we made it like a shirt or something. So underneath the pattern options, I can come up here and say make pattern in this window, and it'll take you into this pattern making window. You say yes, and here it is. And so this is what it'll look like right there on my tree, and it looks kind of gritty, if that's a word. Grid is a, you know, kind of, not everything is there. So you can offset, what's called offsetting your pattern here. By using something called brick and row. That'll kind of shift it a little bit. Did you see that? Kind of like, you know, where bricks are kind of offset a little bit. That's why it's called brick and row. You can do brick and column as well, and that might look a little better where it kind of shifts it a little bit. Do you see how I did that as well? It was called brick and column, or a hex column, kind of flips them around and overlaps them a little bit. And I believe you could, I thought you could move it, you can move things around if you want inside there. And then hex by row, that kind of randomly makes it a little bit more random. That looks pretty good actually. And you know, that would kind of looks a little bit more barky, if it's the word bark. And you can move things around, so it looks like here, maybe if I want to move this a little bit. There we go, offset that a little bit. Oh, it looks like you can even shrink it down a little bit. There you go. So again, that was called hex by row and so on. In addition, you can change the size tile, the art. I don't know what that means. Oh, that just does nothing. Move tile with art, overlap. There's some overlapping features. And then how many do you want in your pattern? This is 5 by 5, so it has 5 across and 5 down. And then show tile edges, show swatch bounds. And so I think the thing is, this offset will give you more of a pattern that doesn't look so boxy. That's a word, right? Boxy? That's what we're trying to make, a pattern that doesn't look like it's just square, you know, your tile floor or something, right? And so that's what these options right here can, you know, the grid is going to be the tile floor, right? That looks like a tile floor. I'm going with more of this. When you're done, you can say save, done, or no, done right here, done. Then to apply that, I click on my tree, and if I go to my swatches, you'll notice your pattern is already in there, because when I said new pattern, it automatically added it to the swatches here. And if I click on it, it'll go in and say, ah, Jeff said the color was going to go in the background. Remember that? Ah, this looks silly. There's no color back there. Ah, what do we need to do? Tell me how to fix that. Which option? I want to keep the color in there. What should I do? No, I could do that. That is one way. That would work, but that's too much work. It's an easier way. Begins with an A. Appearance window. Remember, you can apply another fill, right? Another stroke. So instead of applying the pattern here, I'm going to go to the appearance window, keep my brown, whatever tan color it, and then add a texture over top of that. So remember, it's here in the appearance window. So don't do that. Go back. I'm going to go undo that. where I'm going to apply the texture is going to be under the appearance window right here, appearance. And then under, if you remember the appearance window here, let's put that one in there too. Under the appearance window, you see where it says fill. I can add a new fill, and then I can apply my texture there, and it keeps my color. Okay, so that looks like tree bark to me. Yeah, pretty good, huh? Tree bark. So, again, offsetting the texture so it doesn't look so blocky, and then using the appearance window to apply the texture over top of the existing color. Okay, let's make some, I guess, they don't have leaves. What do pine trees have, or conifer trees? They have needles. That's it. I'm thinking needles. Let's apply some needles, I guess. So that is our texture over top of. Let me move this stuff over here. Let's keep our layer here, and let's hide this. And then we don't need this pattern anymore. These objects right here, you can actually delete them. Once they're in the swatches, you're there. If you want to alter it and go back to it, let's say, I deleted that, but I want to use it again. You can drag directly out of the swatches onto the screen. If I drag from here onto the screen, it'll bring it back. Of course, though, it already...
that texture and then use it in another file?
Yes.
How do you do that?
You would save it as Illustrator file. So you would save the texture as just as it is. So if I wanted to use this texture in a different Illustrator file, I can copy it or cut it, make a new file, and paste it. And then, of course, shrink the artboard down to that size. Fit artboard to the size of the art. Remember that? That's under Object Artboards. And then save that as a bark. There, how about that? Bark, like a dog bark, tree bark. And then if you wanted to use that in another Illustrator file, you could either open it up, or you can then import it as a texture. You can import textures. And we'll do that with the portrait. We'll actually make hair and do that. I can't think about it right now, but you can. You would save it as an Illustrator file, Debbie. Yeah, like this. Save this. And then you could use it, you could load it in the swatches maybe. New color. Open. I would put it here in the swatch library. Other library. Right there. And then choose bark. Right there, and say open. So you would bring it into the swatches. Let me finish that discussion. So yeah, you can do that where you go in it. So if you wanted to, let's say I was doing a different file, a different Illustrator file, you just save it as an Illustrator file, and then in the swatches you can open it. Right here, open other library and bring it in, and then you could use it in your new document. We'll do that with hair. But that's how you would do it. Okay, let's get back to my tree. Again, let's put some needles on there. We're gonna use let's do a couple light ones here. I'm gonna use the pencil tool again. If you want to adjust the pencil and how it draws, again, you can double click on a tool like the pencil tool, and it gives you options here. Do you want smooth or do you want accurate? Accurate will closely follow where you're drawing. It'll be maybe a little jaggier, if that's a word, a little rougher, where smooth, of course, would be smoother. You can keep it filled. You fill it as it's done. You can also keep it selected and so on. So I tend to turn this stuff off if you want to not mess with it after it's done being made. So I'm going to go a little smoother right now because I'm going to kind of do the Christmas tree look where you go down, up, 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 down, up. Christmas tree look. There we go. But remember, I'm going to turn off the stroke. Oh, you got to select it. Oh, actually, the stroke looks pretty good on there. I'm going to leave that on there. So, Christmas tree look. Christmas tree. Okay, so remember, it's very simple, the WPA kind of poster. So instead of redrawing trees, I'm going to duplicate this tree and shrink it down and move it. One of the things we're going to do is alter, and this is a new tool too, I failed to write on the board. We're going to make new trees from this tree, but we're going to make them look different by using something called a mesh. And how the mesh works is you put, so I'm going to duplicate this tree to a new tree. Let me draw it over here. I'm going to make a new tree. So I'm going to duplicate it, but I want it to look different. So to make it look different, I'm going to do something called mesh. And how mesh works is you put a grid over top of your thing, like this, and then there's points along the grid here, and then you move them, and as you move the points, it'll morph the object that's underneath it. So it's a great, easy way to change the shape of an object without having to alter it too much. But it's better than just scaling and rotating, right? Because the tree scale and rotate don't look the same as the first tree. But hey, what if I want to morph it a little bit more, make it a bit skinnier in the inside and fatter at the top, instead of just doing that. So I'm going to take this object and kind of group it. So I'm going to grab my top and my bark here, and I'm going to group that. Group is here. Then I'm going to duplicate it, and I might shrink it down a little bit. That's an easy way to make it look a little different, but that still looks it. I mean, we could flip it over like this, and that looks a little different maybe, but that's really not, a better way would be to do something called a mesh. To put a mesh on is under Object. Where's mesh? I know it's under here. Mesh, 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 mesh. Hold on, it's here somewhere. Path. No. Split into grid. Shape. No. Convert pattern. Blend. Where's my mesh? Distort with mesh. That's it. Okay, it's under Envelope, Distort, and I'm going to say Make with Mesh. Okay, and what that does then is it puts a grid, and you can tell what kind of grid. 4x4 is fine. If you want more detail, you can go on a 5 or 6, and it's kind of like a pattern that goes over top of it. You can hit preview if you want, and you can see it like that. That's a little bit much. I'm going to go back to the 4x4. That's it. So you can see it puts this kind of grid over top of your object, and if you hit OK, what you'll do is use your white selection tool, this one right here, and you grab a point, and you can move it, and you can see you can move it, and morph it, morph. How about we make it skinnier, and then okay, but do you see how that looks a little bit different now? It's not the same. It's a little bit more morphy, if that's a word, morphing, other than just scaling and rotating and stuff like that. And so I think it looks a little different, doesn't it? Okay, so and then this kind of grid stays with it, and you can do it again. Again, use the white one and click on a point. There we go. Ooh. Okay, and then duplicate it again. And yeah, that looks pretty crazy. Okay, there we go. And then let's put in some landscape behind there. So the landscape is going to go in this layer because what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of mix the landscape with the trees, if that makes any sense here. So I'm going to kind of move this around. Let me move this one over. Let me rotate this one just a hair. There we go. Rotate him in that corner there. Maybe move him up a little bit. So here we go. I'm going to put in kind of like a little landscape that goes back in space there by using the pencil tool. And I'm going to kind of grind here a little landscape. Oh, like that. And then let's put some color in there. Dark. Now I'm going to weave the trees in between. Like this tree is going to come up top. And then this tree is going to come, this small one right here. Let's bring that one up. There we go. And then this one. Let's bring this one up. 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 Okay, so maybe weaving them in between like that. See how some are in front of others? Gives it some depth. It's a very simple thing. So very simple. Okay, so then we're gonna have a little pond, a little lake down here at the bottom here. In fact, I'm gonna move all this stuff up a little bit. I'm gonna move it up. I need some space for my water here. Maybe change the shape a little bit. There we go. Here we go. So let's make a little pond here. We're gonna do a little pond there, pond. And let's put some water in there. Evening water. There we go. Okay, so we have a little water in there, and then let's do our moonshine. Moonshine. So again, the purpose of this poster is we're gonna have a moon. Oh, we forgot stars too. Oh, we gotta put some stars in there. Let's put some stars in first. Again, to put some stars in, I'm gonna use the star tool. What else could there be? A star tool. Look at that. So to make a star, I'm gonna go and put a white star in there. Okay, but that looks kind of like a star. Too much like a star. So in order to make the star look a little bit more a star, if that's a word, a star. Now, we could blur this. If you remember, blurring is a way of giving you soft edges, right? Remember the blur? We could go under here, blur, Gaussian blur. We could blur it. That's one way of doing it. Yeah, that looks a little better. At least it's glowing. Another way, though, is something that you have in Photoshop. And so when you're in Photoshop and you want to make nice soft edges, what is it called? Photoshop nice soft edges. Birds, you fly with it. Feather. Okay, so feathers. You can feather objects inside of Illustrator just like you can inside of Photoshop. So feather will give you the soft edges, kind of just like the blur, but it's just a different technique. To do the feather option inside of Illustrator, we can go to the effects window, and inside there you'll notice you have feather is under stylize, and you see feather right here, just like you have in Photoshop. And you can hit preview and you can see it, and you'll see it gives it a little bit different effect. Oops. What was it? That's too much. What was it? 0.05? Let's see what that looks like. That looks good. And notice it's a little bit different than the blur. And the reason why I'm saying that is if you look at it, the center is not as blurred. See how that is nice like that? Did you see that? Okay, can you see the difference between that and the blur? Do I have to go back and forth? Do you want to see the blur? Okay, well, let's undo that. And then let's go and see the blur again. Somewhat, it's similar. It's a little bit different though. I think the inside stays a little, it's a little bit different. Okay, that's blur. And then let's go back in time. And this is the feather. It's similar, but it's a little bit different. Subtle. Okay, let's duplicate this. And let's rotate, and let's make it smaller. And let's duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And a couple stars. Maybe make the Big Dipper. You guys know Big Dipper? Or Little Dipper? Okay, you get the idea. Okay, I'm going to now make a moon. How would I make a moon? Who can make a moon real quick in 2 steps? 3 steps. 3-step moon. Pen tool's too hard. Make 2 circles and chop it. How about that? So here we go. Let's make 1 circle. 1 circle. There we go. And then let's duplicate that circle. Like that. And then let's chop it using Pathfinder. Pathfinder. You love your Pathfinder. Remove front. Boom. Look at that. Yay. And then give it a color. And I shrink it down just a little bit there. And we'll put it in our corner. Down a little bit more. A little bit more. How about that? That looks. What do you think? Nice quick moon. Too sharp on the edges. I could add a little feather, right? Maybe a little feather. Give it a little glow. We learned a little feather. A little feather. You're right, the moon is never that precise there along the edge there, is it? So we give it a little feather. How about that? Very subtle, but there it is. Little feather, that worked. Okay, here now comes the moon glow, or the moonshine, we'll say, right? Moonshine reminds me of West Virginia. It's the only state I ever had real moonshine. Virginia.
Did you have a whole jar? One shot?
People just handed it to me. Drink this. You'll be fine. God love West Virginia. Wonderful state. Wonderful state. Okay, so again, the key here is that the moon is going to glow down here to the water. We're going to have the title. That's where my title is going to be for my play. And then we'll have a date, right? Title of my play. So the moonshine is going to come down. I'm going to just use the pen tool right here, the pen tool, and I'm going to draw a shape. Behind the moon first. And then it's going to come down here and across here and then back up to the top like that. Now, of course, that looks kind of hideous right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a glow to this by using the gradient tool, but apply a transparency to the gradient. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the color a little bit so it's not the same as the moon. Ooh, green though. How about we give it a different color? I want it to be kind of brighter. We'll go somewhat like almost white. There we go. So, and then of course I'm going to move it behind my moon by saying backwards. There it is. It's behind the moon. And then we're going to give it a transparency by using the gradient. And then I'm going to change the colors of the gradient so that the gradient has color, right? So this has to have some color to it. So let's add some color to it. And so this is going to be a nice light. Oh, I didn't want to add a new one. No, go away. Go away. I want a nice bright yellow. Oh, can I get to... whatever. And then this one, we'll do another yellow as well. Whoosh, not that. I did not want to do that. Oh, yes. There we go. Okay. So the key here is I have a gradient. They're almost the same, and that's not what's important. What's important is down here where it says opacity right here. So I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to turn the opacity down to 0. And I'm going to click on this one and turn it down just a little bit as well to maybe 70. And then I'm going to change the way that the gradient goes using the gradient tool, and I'm going to go down from the top up here like that. Oh, not that way. I'm going to go this way like that. So again, I'm changing the opacity of the swatches in the gradient. And let me make this one a little bit not so dark. Let's give it a little bit more glow. There we go. A little bit warmth. And so you can give yourself a kind of a glow like that down here. And it should be all the way transparent down here. So you might need to adjust the line of the gradient. Again, I am using the transparency or opacity option inside here, and I need to adjust kind of this way. Oh, not that way. This way. There we go. It's still not right. Let me go. And I know this would be hard to do in a WPA, but what do you guys think? Transparency on a gradient? Yeah. What's that? Yeah. So, you know, you might need to adjust it a little bit, but my shape up here needs adjusted a little bit. The shape behind there, I probably don't need to move that to the edge here. And then move this one a little bit in like that. And then feathers really messing with that. But it's a good start. Okay, next I'm going to add some text. And I'm going to call it, again, moonshine. Moonshine. And so, thinking about the poster, right? If I look up here, I'm going to go to Google. And we can type in our WPA posters. And go to our images. And so let's look at the typography of, this one's really nice. Look at this one. Look at that one. Again, solid colors. Do you see how they did the textures there? $17.99. Buy it today. Well, this one's $240. Look at that one. But look at the typography, right? Very kind of sans serif kind of font, right? Typography. Uh-oh, syphilis is a menace. Don't lose your pay. Ooh, look at this one. Look at that one. And you're not limited to having to do, you know, you don't have to do American themed. You can make it up. Did you see the thumbnail from the Canvas, right? Did you see the thumbnail from the Canvas thumbnail for this class? That was a poster example from a student. Where's Canvas at? Canvas. This one. See the thumbnail here? Oh, jeez, how do I get to it? I want to show you it in color. How do I get to thumbnails? I think it's under settings. Where am I at? Settings. No. No. Of course. There's settings. There it is. See, this was a student example for this assignment. And of course, it's a dinosaur. It's not, you know, I think it was for Dinosaur National Park or something. Right? But what I'm trying to say is, try and be creative. You don't have to do, but think of the way that, if you look at this looks like it could have been in that WPA kind of look, right? Solid colors with, you know, the nice, sort of the way that is. So this was an example from last semester. It was a very nice example. That's why it became a thumbnail for the class. But this was their poster that way. I just put the Illustrator logo in there. So let me finish with my text. So think about font from the time frame, and so I'm going to go up here to my fonts, and let's look. We'll do some kind of sans serif. You know, this kind of Palatino. Well, that's not bad, being a serif font like that. I kind of don't mind the serif look there. Maybe I'll add a stroke to that. And let's put a date in there. And then let's put in, let's cheat. Remember, cheating is good. Cheat. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat. I'm sorry. Right? You guys all know Picasso, right? What's Picasso's most famous saying?
Most famous saying?
Picasso's most famous saying.
What?
That's it. See, he remembers. Good artists borrow, but great artists steal. Yes.
Or Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs probably did that as well. So of course I'm gonna go to the noun project. I'm gonna go steal, and I'm gonna put in play. No, not play that one. I'm gonna play house, or what? Theater. Theater. That's what I want. Theater. Theater. There we go. I'm gonna steal the theater masks. Yes, that's what I meant. Theater masks. Steal them. Stealing. 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 Yeah, that's probably illegal what I just did. You shouldn't do that. I can get away with it because I'm a teacher. Teacher gets away with it.
What? Well, you do a portfolio, 100% of the work has to be our own, right?
Yeah, stealing it is not good. You should not steal. You can draw something like that yourself. There we go. Complete. So again, I kind of faked a little poster, movie or theater poster. Got some dates. Moonshine. Can you imagine that play? That would be a good one. Right? Couple of people in West Virginia making moonshine and trying to drive it out of the woods. I don't know. I just made this up. Okay, so think about poster ideas. I don't know, I kind of ended my discussion a little early today. Any questions so far? Let me save this, and I'll save the audio recording. I went over a bunch of things. Hopefully you remember them. Practice them right now. All the things I just showed you, you should be practicing. Let me save this. Oh, that's where the people make it distill and do stuff like that? Again, think about some of the things I showed. The gradient, transparency, morphing of the trees with the, what was it called? Mesh, right? And then stars with a feather. And then texture with the offsetting of the pattern so it looks a little better. Okay, so I will stop the recording here, and I'll put this on YouTube. And there's some other ones that I failed to put up there, some people were telling me.